What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over some tips to hopefully help you win close range fights in Fortnite Chapter 5. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below which shotgun is your favorite this season between the Frenzy Auto Shotgun and the Hammer Pump. I think I know the way most people are going to comment on that. Also, if you've seen videos like this in the past that I've made, I am going to go over a bunch of like general close range tips and then get into things more specific for this season later on. The first thing we're going to talk about is going to be your sensitivity. And I think it's very important that you find a sensitivity that you're comfortable hip firing with and tracking people close range while hip firing. And the reason why I say this is because you don't want to be aiming in with shotguns that often. There are times where it might be good to aim in, but more often than not, you're going to want to hip fire. When you aim in, it lowers your sensitivity, and this is going to make it to where you aren't able to react to other players' movement as much, and movement is going to be essential in close range fights. But also it kind of slows down your own movement, so you're not going to be able to strafe as much, you're not going to be able to jump shot, you're going to be an easier target to hit, and it's going to be easier for your opponent to avoid you. So you want to be hip firing as much as possible in these close range fights, you know, if the person is very close to you. And a lot of players don't like hip firing, and I think that's because their sensitivity is too high for them, and they don't feel comfortable just like consistently hitting shots with the hip fire, and maybe lowering it or finding a sensitivity where you can, you know, feel comfortable in close range fights. Hip firing is super important in this game. There are times where you're going to want to aim in, and that's typically going to be in the only time I aim in with my shotgun, I feel like, is if I'm fighting somebody that doesn't know I'm there. Like maybe I sneak up on somebody or they're focused on something else, then you can maybe aim in and get a good shot. Maybe if you're playing off like a right shoulder peek from cover, then you can aim in there. But more often than not, you're probably going to want to hip fire your shotgun. And that also brings us to something unique with Chapter 5, is that they added sights to the game. And I've seen a decent amount of players complain about finding shotguns as floor loot that have sights on them. And I think the reason why this is throwing a lot of people off is because they're aiming in way too much. I think the sights on the shotgun can actually be good if you only aim in when you should be aiming in and not as much in those like scrappy close range fights. So hip fire as much as you can with the shotguns in actual close range fights. And movement and cover are also going to be an essential part of winning close range fights consistently. So often you see so many people in zero build kind of just standing out in the open, trading damage back and forth, and that is not ideal. It's going to happen sometimes, but it's not ideal. You don't want to be making that happen consistently. If you're finding that every time you lose, it's because you and another player are just standing out in the open, trading auto shotgun shots, that's probably something you want to work on. You want to use cover as much as you can in these shotgun fights because that's going to limit how you can be shot. And the camera in Fortnite is off center. So if you peek from the right side of cover, you have to expose less of your character to actually see than if you peek from the left. So using right shoulder peeks is just huge in close range fights. Also, movement is going to be pretty helpful. And this could be things like, you know, jump shotting, crouching, strafing left and right, also like sprint and sliding to potentially behind your opponent. If y'all are playing around like a rock or a tree, you know, or like a corner, you can slide past them and end up behind them, and that makes it like really rough for players to fight you. So not only do you want to use cover as much as you can, you want to use your movement in fights to potentially help you aim, but also throw off your opponent's aim. And that's another reason, like I talked about earlier, why you don't want to be aiming too much, because other people are going to be doing that too. So if your sensitivity isn't as reactive, you're not going to be able to track them. But also if you're aiming in too much, then you're just going to be standing out there like a sitting duck. So both of those things, I think, like using the movement and using cover and like hip firing, all of that stuff just comes down to practice and like putting the time in game. And the more you kind of practice that, the better you'll get at it, I think. Another thing that can go a huge way in helping you win close range fights in this game is going to be to start with early damage, because the shotguns in Fortnite often do a lot of damage. And so a fight can be like, it can go either way. Like it can swing very quickly. And even if you do end up winning it, taking a few shotgun shots is going to make it easier for other players to third party you. So if you can start a fight with like opening AR tags or maybe a snipe on the other players, since snipers are so good, that's going to make your life a lot easier. Or just, you know, if you're third partying a fight that just happened, oftentimes those players are going to be weak. So that's another thing that can go well for you. You don't want to just be jumping on people when you're both 250 health. It's going to happen sometimes, but if you can just start the fight with opening damage and have an advantage before the close range fight even starts, that's going to make your life a lot easier, and you're going to consistently win more fights, taking less damage, and this is probably going to lead to you getting third-partied less, which is also going to be great. Unfortunately, this season, as of the time I'm recording this video, the auto shotgun is just the way to go in zero build. I think it's way too good. The pump is just not the greatest, and it also feels like kind of clunky to use. I expect this to change at some point during the season, but as of right now, the auto shotgun is the meta in zero build, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you play the game, are well aware of that. There's going to be that one guy that comments like, no, I use the pump and it's great, and it's like, yeah, you can use the pump and still do good, but most people are going to do better off with the auto, and there's going to be times where like you're definitely going to be punished if you're using the pump versus the auto. So I would recommend using the auto shotgun right now this season. I think it's pretty good. One of the kind of challenges of using the auto shotgun is going to be the size of the reticle, because it has a larger reticle, so it's harder for you to consistently land a lot of pellets at times. And the way shotguns do damage in Fortnite is you get damage based on how many pellets you hit. So at times, you might want to prioritize just hitting as many pellets as possible versus going for the headshot. I've talked about this countless times with the auto shotguns, but a lot of players, what they'll do with these is they'll put like the dot in the center of their crosshair, or like the center of their crosshair on the opponent's like forehead. And what this does is it kind of like leaves the side of the crosshair not even on the opponent, and the top half of the crosshair also not on the opponent at all. And that makes it to where you miss a lot of pellets. It's much better off, I think, to maybe have like, you know, the top quarter of your reticle on the opponent's head and then the rest of your reticle on the body. That way you might hit less pellets to the head, but you'll hit more pellets overall, which is oftentimes going to be more damage or just more consistent damage over time, which is good. There definitely are times where you can just aim straight for the head, especially if you're very close to the opponent. But if you're like, you know, 5 meters or so away, just hitting as many pellets as possible, I think, is the optimal play to make. For the attachments on the auto shotgun, I really like to use the speed mag, the laser sight, and then the muzzle brake. I'm not even sure if the muzzle brake does anything because I pretty much only hipfire it, but the laser sight is going to give you a tighter hipfire reticle, so you're going to be able to hit more pellets, hopefully. And then the speed mag, I think, is the way to go because the reload on this weapon is not great, and if you use the drum mag, it actually makes it take your weapon take longer to reload, and that's going to leave you susceptible to third parties, or just times where like you thought you reloaded your gun and you didn't. The mythic version of the auto shotgun that you can get from Lavish Layer does have a drum mag on it, and I will use that if I find it. But most of the time, if I'm setting up my attachments, it's speed mag, laser sight. Those are the two most important for the auto. And with the auto shotgun being the meta, a lot of people just go into 50-50s, the things I talked about you wanting to avoid earlier, where you and the opponent are both full HP, and then you just kind of jump on them, and y'all both have like a shotgun fight where you're both standing out in the open trading auto shotgun shots. You want to avoid that this season, but a lot of players just kind of try to force that to happen for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but I fight a lot of people who like, it seems like their entire game plan is to just us both barrel stuff each other with the auto, and then one player will win. And those fights you want to avoid as much as possible, because even if you do win them, it's kind of a coin flip, and you're likely going to take a good amount of damage during the fight, and that's going to, you know, increase your chances of getting third partied, or just make it more problematic if you do get third partied. One thing you can do to avoid these 50-50s is going to be to use cars. I've talked about this in countless videos this season. I think the cars are very important. Not only does it let you get around the map faster, you can avoid snipers, you have mobile cover, but also you can use them in close range fights to be super annoying. Basically, you could just juggle getting in and out of your car and basically teleport around during the fight. What I like to do is like get out of my car, maybe shoot the opponent with like 2 or 3 auto shotgun shots, and then once it looks like they're ready to return fire, then you just get in your car, and your character model like basically teleports when you do this, and it makes it very disorienting for the opponent, because at that point they have to think like, what is this guy doing, you know? And then you can kind of like drive up a little bit, make them think you're running away, maybe turn the car, that way you have a bit of cover, or you can just jump right back out when they aren't looking at you anymore, and then start auto shotgunning them again, and then just rinse and repeat this over the course of a fight, and you just basically teleport around. Like I said, you just want to be standing close enough to the car, that way you can hit your just get in the car button, and then your character will get in the car. And I said a lot of players want that 50-50 to happen for some reason, and if you just drive the car up to them, make it get out like you're about to make that happen, shoot them a few times, get in, it throws a lot of people off. Sometimes they will just get in the car with you. And then if that happens, what I like to do is just get out of the car myself and start shooting them with my auto shotgun. When they're sitting in your car right next to you, it's very easy for you to just hit really good headshots on them and melt that player down pretty quickly. If you don't get the kill that way, they'll oftentimes jump out, at which point you can just kind of continue that fight if you have them weak enough, or you can get in the car yourself and then rinse and repeat the previous steps where you kind of jiggle in and out of the car. It's very broken, and once you start kind of getting the hang of this and doing it better and better, I think it's going to be very rough for players to deal with you, and I think that's kind of like the main skill gap with using the auto shotgun right now, because it's really not that hard to use. You just kind of spam out shots, and like kind of anybody can kill anybody with it at times. But if you use these cars properly, I feel like a lot of those like random fights versus more like unpredictable players are going to be a lot easier to deal with. And in team game modes as well, you can use this, and you know, your characters are going to be teleporting around, and this has helped me win a lot of fights that would have been 50-50s otherwise. And the video I posted a few days ago, someone commented on it and was like, yo, at this timestamp that was like super cheesy. And it's like, I agree. Like if they fixed this and patched it, I would not mind, but it's kind of the way the game is right now. I also wouldn't mind if they, you know, nerfed the auto shotgun, but again, it's kind of how the game is right now. So it is what it is. I do expect the meta to change over the course of the season though. The balance of the shotguns is just not very good. Typically in Fortnite, the pumps are better. And I think if they do buff the pump shotgun or nerf the auto shotgun, the meta could very well end up being like hammer, pump shotgun, burst, SMG, and then the sniper. And like comboing and cycling between the hammer, pump, and the burst sub can already be quite good, but it's just like so much more is required from the hammer pump player than the auto shotgun user, and that's why the auto shotgun just kind of takes over right now. It's easier to use, and it's almost just as good, if not better. But if we do get some buffs to the pump, I do expect hammer, pump, and burst to be a pretty good combo. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. As always, if you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, comment down below which shotgun you think is best this season, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.